Well, welcome to a MOTH News Live special. We're focusing on an old pal, old friend of the show, goes by the name of Jeff, surname Leo. We have Al on board. It's just myself and yourself today, Al. How are you keeping? How's your Easter holidays going? Did you get an Easter holiday?
No Easter holidays, man. Just got back from traveling, so it's been a hectic start to Easter. So I've been traveling with work.
I've lost your mic there, have I? I've lost your mic. Right, I'm going to get into the intro. Hopefully your mic will come back to us. So yeah, it is. It's a MOTH Live special, and we're calling this one, a few different names. The Curious Case of Jeff Leo. Very interesting. Yeah, today we're diving into I'd say one of the most intriguing financial and legal stories involving Ireland in recent years. It's the story of Jeff Leo, a former Wall Street executive entangled in a 60 million dispute, which is playing out currently in the Irish courts. There's some stuff we can talk about, some stuff we can't talk about. Alongside me is my co-host and expert on the matter, Al. I think his mic should be back there. Al, are you with us?
Can you hear me, Kate?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Al, just a little bit for anybody who doesn't know this man, a bit of background. So Jeff Leo is a former Morgan Stanley banker who transitioned into private investments. He is associated with several companies, including Leo Financial Services and Steelworks Investments. He resides in, no, I'm not going to say where he lives. What else do we know about Jeff Leo that you think people should be aware of if they haven't heard of this man before, Al?
Okay, where do we start? So
we start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start.
Mischief maker. He's a strategic. He's a strategic creditor in a process I'm involved in, which is high profile. So he's purchased the debt post the process of insolvency, where there's a receiver appointed, and then he purchases a debt, puts in a liquidator, and then disrupts the process. So he's done this in quite a few situations. Now, the one that he's in court with right now, with Kieran Wallace and Arthur Cox, is he put a company into liquidation that was essentially voluntarily liquidated, and they had to reverse that process because the owners of the business, the largest shareholder, had not agreed to putting the company into liquidation. So then they reversed it. Right now, that process has ended up in controversy in terms of there's been lots of media coverage, inverted commas. There hasn't been lots of media coverage, but there's been some media coverage in relation to this, because the assets that were removed from the investors is they're totaling somewhere close to 60 million, and Dundrum House is one of those assets. Okay, so there's a dispute happening right now. There is a judgment, a secure judgment against the properties, where essentially the properties cannot be sold, okay, without somebody being made aware of there's a dispute about the ownership of the properties. Okay. There's a couple of technical terms in that, but I just give it a very kind of a layman's description of it. Okay. In essence, that underpins the dispute from a commercial, let's call it commercial perspective. On the on a kind of a more local level, there's continued rage in relation to how the property has been kind of maintained, handled, and that's from, let's call it a heritage perspective, right? Okay. So the local community within Dundrum have been very well documented, and have been very vocal about the fact that they're very disappointed And I want to make this clear: they're not disappointed in the use of the property. I just want to make sure that people are very clear on the dispute. So it's people are
Because
the local people
this
of
is not
Dundrum.
about, this isn't about,
It's not about the people and people that are in need being
it's
positioned
not
or
about asylum
housed or
seekers, no.
whatever. Correct. And as a matter of fact, they've been known to help the people locally as well if they needed it. So
Yeah, and
we're dealing with very
we had an
compassionate
asylum
community.
seeker here on MOTH a few weeks ago, and saying that the so-called protesters outside Dundrum House, who were painted in the press as being, anti-immigration, anti-asylum seeker, actually they were helping them with. There was a young lady, one young lady in particular, Karen, I think is her name, who provided the female asylum seekers with cleaning products so they could clean the rooms they were staying in before they could actually stay in them, because they had children. They weren't. Dundrum House had not done their due diligence and were preparing the property for these people to arrive, even though they're getting so much money from the government for this iPass centre. The place wasn't even cleaned. There was dust on the bed. It was that bad. And the so-called protesters outside Dundrum House were the people who came to their aid with cleaning products. And subsequently, Karen also helped one of the asylum seekers with printing and word processing for their asylum application. So let's just put that out there nice and clear. This is not about protesters. This is not about asylum seekers. This is about somebody running an iPass centre, earning millions from the government, and zero, it seems to be. How, I'll let you continue, but how the hell is this guy getting away with what he's doing?
Yeah, and look, we can play the video in a moment. It speaks for itself, right? In terms of, we shared a video in one of the shows, Keith, if you remember, where you could see the decay of the building,
the dilapidation,
how it's diminished. Yeah, and so that's the first thing. But even if you just kind of park that aside, set it aside for a second, right, and just look at this as a very binary point in terms of, okay, why is it and how is it that this consortium, spearheaded by Leo, can continually get these contracts, secure government-based contracts, when there's more than a shadow, there's evidence to say he's behind on his tax returns, he's behind on his taxes, there's a dispute about the properties, he's in court disputing the ownership of the properties, there's fraud allegations, there's local citizens of the town have escalated this to TDs, local councillors, the Heritage Society over to us, right? In terms of the protection of the building, whatever the correct algorithm or the TLA acronym is, right? But I guess the kind of the overarching problem is, how is it that somebody like this can continually get a government contract, which is heavily financed, continue to fund all of this activity unchecked, right? And then even more than that, now there's a new organization introduced into the process, which has no history. It's a new company. It's not even from the jurisdiction, and it's clearly a phoenix, right? Okay, in terms of coming in now to secure the contract, and it's not like a short-term contract in terms of crisis. This is a process that can take as long as it needs to take to move people into the property. Why isn't there proper due diligence done? And it's something like a 10 to 20 year contract. I mean, it's absolutely boggling, and the frustration from the people has just I think it's just got to the point of boiling point, right?
So the latest on this is the story that we're kind of focusing on today. We also probably should mention the Wennings, who are family in the US, a family business, and they're the people who at one point, how many years ago now? Maybe 10 years ago, Jeff Leo, maybe longer, went to the Wennings and said, I'll take some of your money off you, I'll invest it, and I'll give it back to you. And he hasn't done that. There's all sorts of complications with that as well. But having been told in America that he couldn't work, as an as investment banker, he left and he decided, well, I'll go and do this in Ireland, and he really shouldn't. There's got to be some sort of flag raised when a guy arrives in the country who has come from a country where he's been told he's not allowed to operate um, as a financial, as an investor, whatever it is in what he was doing before. There's got to be some sort of thing that comes up on his name. Like the question here I have put up for anybody that wants to join in the conversation: do you think the Irish government needs to tighten regulations on who can set up companies and handle millions in investments here, or is this just the cost of doing business in the global economy? Now, it's worse than that, because whatever about coming over here and dealing in millions and getting into investments, it's money from the government, it's taxpayers' money, and also he's been entrusted then, like, because like I think I used to have this sort of I used to think about investment like people who raised finance to buy properties, on behalf of people. I'm not a finance guy, but I'm learning. And I used to think they were just kind of like, they weren't really involved in the hands-on. Like, this guy is there. He's on the ground. He's like, there's stories coming out of Dundrum House of asylum seekers not having access to water and not having access to food. And these are direct decisions being made by the owner, and he is running this as the owner, or was running this as the owner, down on the ground. People who are standing outside protesting about how the place was being run, nothing to do with the asylum seekers, protesting about the owner, would see him drive in and drive out, and a particularly rude man would appear as well. So like, this guy was here, he was getting money from the government, getting money, taxpayers' money, to run asylum centers. Like, I mean, that whole area is difficult enough for us to manage as a country, and to try and do the right thing without this guy making an absolute balls of it and making it worse. And it is beyond belief. So he's come to Ireland with somebody else's money. He's supposed to be investing, he's supposed to be looking after, and so he's not even doing the right thing by them. And now I just don't know why there isn't some kind of flag that goes up when a guy arrives in the country. How is he allowed to operate in this in Ireland? No, it really makes us look like a bunch of animals.
Yeah, and look, this is not a new problem, Keith. Right? So this guy, as you said, this is a over 12 years old problem, right? Where he's been moving around in silence, taking down companies, buying up companies, liquidating companies. There's a trail of destruction. Look, we've spoken to quite a few people. I mean, I'm close to a dozen people at this stage that have had some, interaction with Jeff Leo or some issue with him. And, there's even another company that I'm speaking with at the minute that went through a similar process with him. He went in, it took over loans, and then crashed the business. So this isn't new pattern of behavior. And we're more highlighting the issue in relation to, as you correctly said, how is it that somebody of this caliber or lack thereof is able to come in and secure these contracts over and over and over again, even in sight of what's happening at the minute in terms of ambiguity around the ownership of the property, disputes, court process, and then another company comes in on top of that and gets a contract secured and signed and executed and moved through. And it's not as if we're living in a country that is known for being super efficient, right?
Yeah.
There is issues with procurement that usually takes longer, and I'm sure a lot of people could speak to, if they're in the process of getting awarded a government contract, that it takes a lot of time. And I'd say it must be extremely frustrating for the companies that are genuinely in procurement process, and they have to put a huge amount of work into tender responses, and they have to follow it through. They have to, meet the criteria. There has to be certain things in place, tax compliant and stuff, and so much more. They must be frustrated to see this happening as well, where somebody can just rock up and get, and like, these are not small contracts. I mean, like, we have spoken to somebody who's provided us with a report previously, and they reckon like this will yield somewhere close to 9 million a year for this guy, right? So like, it's a substantial amount of money, and I mean, if you look at it in balance, the same guy is shouting from the rooftops in relation to another case, which is a fraction of that in relation to our own case,
We should just go through this article, and fair play to the Irish Examiner, because we have said before that mainstream media have not been good at talking about this guy, apart from the Sunday Business Post, who've been brilliant when it comes to talking about this guy, talking him up and, painting him as the good guy and giving him brilliant PR, and then not barely a dicky bird from them when the whole thing turns out to be an absolute shit show. So we have this from the Examiner. You see, it's good old Munster publication there. That's why
the rebels do it. The rebels will do it every time.
So concerns have been raised over a government contract awarded to a newly set up company in Spain with no history of previous records. It's we're being father tedded by an American with no history of previous records for an iPass centre in County Tipperary. In a briefing note sent to community representatives on Tuesday, the Department of Integration said 277 beds will be provided for people seeking refuge in Ireland who are international protection applicants in Dundrum House Hotel, Dundrum, County Tipperary. The property will be operated by Utmasta Limited. I don't know. I'm trying to read it backwards and see if it stands for something. I think it's Satsuma. He must have been eating one at the time when he came up with the name. Satsuma is a small orange, by the way. Utmasta Limited, which has a 20-year lease on the site, the memo explained, and there will be at least 2 members of staff on site 24 hours a day. The contract is for 2 years, and local councillor Liam Brown believes that this could be worth between 16 million and 20 million, right? Mr. Brown told the Irish Examiner he has received concerns from his community. These are the people, the protesters, who are not protesting about the asylum seekers. They're protesting about the use of Dundrum House and the dilapidated state of Dundrum House. Concerns with the community who researched the company's past and discovered. Now, I need to pause it here, Al, right? Because the government have granted possibly up to between 16 and 20 million contract to house asylum seekers to this company called Satsuma Limited. And these people, these so-called protesters standing outside the door of the gate of Dundrum House, they did the research. These aren't experts. These aren't political people. These aren't civil servants. These aren't financial people. These are just concerned citizens. And they had a look at the company's past and discovered it has no known history of running a similar centre. The idea that a government contract can be given to a company 3 months old, this company is only 3 months old. Of course, there's no history. There's no history of running a bath. This company has done nothing. This is not a real thing. This is a real company by name, but it's a fugazi. The idea the government contract can be given to a company 3 months old, this is the sort of thing that went on with the masks and the ventilators during COVID. So people are saying this is like the time we really needed the masks and the thing, and that was used by certain people in power to grant contracts to other people for millions for masks. These are people who never had anything to do with safety equipment in their lives, and they were overlooked. There were plenty of people that could have gotten you masks that have been doing that for years, but no, we'll give the contract to some dude who has an office near Leinster House. He adding the community is disappointed and angry over the decision. Who is Utmasta / Satsuma Limited? Follows the company show an apartment in Spain. Fucking hell, excuse my language. Fronted by a Spanish woman. Like what? Juanita? She's like
Dora the Explorer.
Oh,
I mean, it's bonkers.
Like Dora the Explorer, Dora the iPass owner. Do you remember the song about the Spanish lady? It's an old Irish song, no? I won't sing it for you now. Look it up. It's a good one, though. As I went off to Dublin City at the hour of 12 at night, who should I see but a Spanish lady opening an iPass centre on the lawns?
Or you could do Christy Moore, Nancy Spain.
who What about
No matter where I wander, I'll find an iPass centre in Ireland.
Juanita?
I
Juanita.
mean,
Who
look,
the fuck's Juanita?
what he says.
It's a
But
Spanish woman, that nobody's
it's
heard of, and the company has no history, and it's just been given this 20 million possibly grant. Okay, take it away.
Yeah. No, I'm just echoing what you're saying. I mean, like, it's a two fingers to the Irish citizens, right? It's like we don't really care anymore what you say or do. So if you look at the nuance of it, so firstly on a technicality, right? How was it and how is it that a lease has been signed? A 20-year lease has been signed with a brand new company with no connection previously to said party, if we're to believe this is an independent company, right? And they just happen to be in the same line of business as the guy that's in dispute in that property, and they just happen to get the same contract as the people that's in that property, and they signed a 20-year lease, and it's a Spanish company, has just been set up since all this stuff started, has no history, has no diligence. They don't know what they're going to do with the money. They don't even know if they're credible. They could come in and run the place like whatever they want to do at this stage, because there is no governance on this, right? So governance is the first thing. Second thing is the legal precedent of somebody being able to do this in our country at a time when we're, looking at people are getting concerned about a global recession and a global financial crash, right? Which is an immediate every second week. And you've got a brand new company with no history getting awarded a contract in double-digit millions on a lease of a property.
It's hugely concerning because, like, are we giving this company, say this brand new company, nothing to do with Jeff Leo, by the way, nothing at all, nothing to see here. Are we giving this brand new company preferential treatment? But like, I doubt it. So that must mean that it's going on elsewhere. And also, what? How? Like, the mind boggles, Al. I don't even know what more to say on this.
So are we entitled to put in a freedom of information request to, get eyes on how that contract was awarded, who awarded it, who prepared the submission to get that contract, when was it submitted, who signed it, who are the people
who's in
behind
charge
it,
of giving out this?
and request a copy of the lease, and who signed the lease of that property, and why would one be able to award a lease of a property that's under dispute in the middle of a high court action, and on the back of that lease, provide that lease as evidence to be awarded a contract at the very minimum of $16 million.
We absolutely can put in a freedom of information and get that information, and we should. And also, what other properties and who else is getting money? And like, are we only doing this for either because the previous owners, because let's be very clear here, this is a different owner now. This is a Spanish lady. This is a separate company.
Dora.
This is Dora
the Explorer.
The government contracts explorer. She's very good at what she does. And like,
for the tenders.
Totally different company. But the previous owner, weirdly enough, he seemed to get the contract to run something, and his past wasn't looked into, because if they had looked into his past, they'd have realized there's a massive red flag about this guy doing business in the US, and he's coming over here to do business. So this is not the first time this has happened. And do we think that it's only happening, we're only doing it for foreigners, for Spanish people, and for like Yanks that come over and, promises to build us a monorail? I mean, it is like an episode of The Simpsons where the guy comes into Springfield and promises to build a monorail, and then, gets the contract because he tap dances and he's got a stripy jacket and he looks cool and he chats up the ladies and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we as a country should be absolutely fuming, and the problem here is it's oversight, it's diligence. It's like you're going. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Do you know what I mean? If it looks like, I think you've said it before, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it if it looks like dog shit and it tastes like dog shit, good job I didn't stand in it. Like, you're also going, oh, there's something shady going on here. Is there somebody getting some money to make sure that these things are being, like, who? We need to do the FOI to find out who awarded the contract.
Yeah. No, it needs to be investigated. And I know there's been some coverage on it today as well, Keith, which I sent you the link to. So you've got Tipperary Live. So the department respond to woman in Spain's involvement in Dundrum asylum seeker contract. This is the headline, so I'm quoting, okay, right? And the department, it's worth up to 20 million, is what they're saying, right? And they're saying in essence that they are comfortable that they've conducted diligence.
Is this the same? Is this the article you just sent me there? Is this the same? So this is about the local community in Dundrum, Dundrum Heritage Group.
So this is showing, yes, what I sent you was there's also dispute on the repurposing of the building, right? Which is showing that the planning application that was submitted. So this is again on the technicality, right? In terms of the technical, if you were to go through a contract award, right? Hitting the minimum requirements. So even in the minimum requirements of the building should not be housing people because it has not been repurposed correctly. Okay, so it's a heritage building that should be protected, and he was able to repurpose that in some way, or didn't even do that. So that's a planning thing, right? So this is like, I just want to rock up and I decide to build another house on the side of my house and not apply for planning, and I'm going to fill it full of asylum seekers and get a contract. And I'm going to get somebody from Spain to apply for the contract. So I'm just going to lease the property to them because there's a dispute over the planning application that I made. But while that's being disputed, I'm going to decide to rent it to somebody. I'm going to lease the part of that property to somebody and let them make $1 million a year, and they pay me on the 20-year lease.
Okay.
This is how preposterous this is, right?
Okay. So there's been a complaint about the property. I'm going to try and understand it because I don't understand. I'm a layman. I'm the layman here. I'm the man on the street here, right? So the locals, the Dundrum Heritage Group, the locals, they said this place has been used in a way that the planning permission doesn't allow. So basically, the court are going, right, stop doing what you're doing. Don't go ahead with anything. We need to do this review. That company effectively is frozen from doing anything. And then whoever owns the company, Mr. Leo Sayer, fucking for all I know at this stage, who owns what company, he's leased it out to this Spanish lady that he met on the road to Dublin, Dora the Explorer, and she's doing it. So it's not so this court case can go ahead, but he can still go ahead with what he's doing. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
God, can I tell you something? I was asked to do a podcasting job a while ago, and it was for a government department, and it's sort of an NGO. They were a disability group, and it was a really good thing to do. They wanted to make a podcast. It was good because we're like, oh, we can give these people a voice or whatever. And when I put in my invoice for not a lot of money, because it was it's not a charity, like they're funded by the government, but I was like, okay, I like these people, let's do a job, let's do something. I charged them something like 700 for like a big job. They came back to me and said, oh yeah. I said, well, here's the invoice, let me know when it'll be paid and we'll get cracking. We'd already started on the work, so I was 3 weeks in. They came back to me and said, yeah, well, we'll pay it when the job is done, right? When the job is done, you can send in your invoice, and then we'll pay that a month later. I was like, I started doing this job. This job is going to take me at least 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. You're going to pay me in 3 months for the work I'm doing now. That's how hard it is to get paid. For me to get paid for doing something that I'm actually doing, I've already started, and it is like, and then that was for like €700 or something. And this guy's rocking up, and this Spanish lady is coming over in her Armada, taking over iPass centers and getting 20 million, no questions asked. Like, that's sick.
And look, exactly. Again, just if you break it down, as you said correctly, everybody, like not everybody, but most people will have some example, right, where you're doing something, you may have done renovation, or you applied for business unit, or I had it many years ago. We were taking the lease on the property to set up an office in a restaurant, right? And we couldn't go ahead with the lease because the building had to be repurposed and it was declined, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't just go along and rent that property to somebody else, sublet it, which is what he's doing. Because remember now, he is not the owner of the property. That's the point. It's not his money. He bought that property with somebody else's money, moved it into his name illegally, right? Which is their claim. This is documented. This is why he's in the High Court, right? And took over ownership of the property, borrowed money against the property, right? So he's essentially subleasing it. So it's a sublease. So he's essentially renting it, right? If you're to look at it pedantically, right?
So he's renting it.
He's essentially renting it, and then he subletted it to somebody else with court ruling, judgments, issues with planning, issues with the property, local dismay, and a grey area around him as a business person. So you break all that down, and then here's the Phoenix company that just happens to come from Spain. It's just been created in January, and we'll give them the contract. And we're just supposed to sit here and walk in snow and sleepwalk into this and say, and as you correctly said, I do think, Keith, this is going to open up a can of worms, because if he's doing this blatantly, and he is in the public arena, he is in the media, very likely in comparison to most other people if they're in this situation. So that draws a lot of questions as well, right? And he's still doing this. So how many other organizations are doing this also?
Yeah.
So is it time for us as an Irish nation to start asking a deeper question, right? And look, that's a picture of Jeff, which you won't see too many online, right? So this is Jeff in his
LinkedIn profile, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a LinkedIn profile. That's his years as a very serious banker, I think. That was right. That picture was taken right before he was kicked out of the office, I believe, by the regulator.
You see his face there going, what? But I'm a narcissist.
I'm not Jeff Leo. What? That's the other guy.
He's like, what? You can't fire me? I am a Spanish lady.
I did nothing wrong. Hey, my name is Jose. I'm not Jeff Leo.
You're mistaken. You're mistaken me for an American. I'm a Spanish lady.
Have you seen that in Jump Street, 21 Jump Street? Is it? My name's Jeff.
My name's Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. My name's Jeff.
My name's Jeff.
Hey, I'm from Honduras. I'm not from Dundrum.
Yeah, he's like, well, you got the wrong guy. I am not Jeff Leo. I'm a Spanish lady. Oh God! And so I'm a Spanish lady, and so is my wife. It's like the life of Brian.
I identify as Dora the Explorer from Spain.
Yeah. The guy will be fighting for trans rights next, just so he can remain as a Spanish lady. I mean,
man.
Is this like okay? And we've talked to you. You are literally Dora the Explorer because you travel a lot and you're out and about in the world. You're dealing with people. You're trying to get investment, and you don't really do. Let me just put it this way: you don't really do your work as an Irish company anymore because it's very difficult. Like, so you're going out there. Is this kind of operation and this kind of lack of oversight and this kind of shyster shenanigan, whatever you want to call it? That is it making Ireland look bad? Are we a bunch of amateurs? on the international stage? Is this what people aren't seeing? Is this what the circus and bread is all about that's going on, the Dáil, the shite that you see every day about speaker minutes and, you know, what's Micheál Murphy doing and who's bringing the horse to France and who's bringing the shamrock to America and what's Conor McGregor doing and who's this fella talking about immigrants and asylum seekers? Is all this covering up the very fact of the matter is that we're a bunch of amateurs when it comes to doing business and people are laughing at us and we will not get any more investments as a country and ultimately we're a bit fucked.
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, all you have to speak to is, okay, Conor McGregor was invited to the White House for Patrick's Day. I think it's the first time. I'm open to correction on is it the first time, but it's definitely one of the first times that we didn't have a official government representative hanging out with the president for Patrick's Day. I know Micheál Martin was there before, a couple of days before, but actually on Patrick's weekend or invited to the events, right? So we had that. We had, obviously, there was a kickoff at the gala dinner in relation to another topic, which was, Enoch Burke's family came in to speak to Micheál Martin. Why was a guy being locked up and his bank account being emptied because he disagreed with a policy, right? So that's one hot topic. So that was bad. Then Conor McGregor coming to the White House and just, I guess his frustration for what's happening in the country was evident, and it boiled over, and although the messenger was delivering it is not everybody's cup of tea, but still the reality is the message that he was bringing is pretty accurate, right, in terms of what's happening in the country, top down corruption. And Tucker Carlson came over to see for himself, right? That's another data point, but this all aggregates up to a collective view of what's happening in Ireland right now. It is a complete shit show.
And I'm going to point to a big issue here, right? And this is why this MOTH is important, right? Because I would wholeheartedly and completely disagree with you on what you're saying about Conor McGregor, right? But you have an absolute right to say it, yeah. And I don't agree with Tucker Carlson coming over and all that. I don't agree with any of that stuff, right? But we need to talk about these things. And in my head, I'm going, Keith, don't get sidetracked into having a conversation with Al about Conor McGregor or Tucker Carlson, blah, 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 because we need to be here to talk about the issues, the problems. And that is what's happening. That's what's happening. People are having arguments about, I mean, I have my own view on, I said trans rights. I have my own view on Conor McGregor. I have my own views on asylum seekers. Like you other people have different views. Philip might have different views. You and that we have on has different views. You have different views but we cannot, if we get bogged down in talking about these and arguing about these, then we're not talking about this particular type of thing that's going on in this country. And that is a big problem.
Yeah, no, you're right. The rest is noise, to be honest. The rest is noise. The fundamental part is we're not listening. Government are not listening to their citizens, their electorates, right? They're not clued into what the actual issues are, and this is just blatant disregard for a process where it's making a complete mockery of our country, where somebody can just rock up with zero credibility, sign a lease to a property that's already in dispute, and walk out the door with literally millions and millions and millions of euros of taxpayers' money. Unaccountable.
It's like, I mean, I mentioned already, but like the hoops somebody like me has to go through to, even doing a small job for a government department, you got to show your tax clearance certificate. You got to, then then to get paid. I worked with this education board in the west of Ireland, and it was like pulling teeth to get paid, like the bureaucracy. And that's what pisses me off. And I'm sure it pisses you off about work that you've tried to do and work you have done and successful work you've done as well with developing technology and working with the government and trying to get paid. It is the most difficult thing. And civil servants and people who work in these organizations, NGOs or whatever they are, they do not give a shit about when you get paid. And if the job falls through and you don't get paid, they don't give a shit because they still get paid. That's happening. Fine, it's broken, whatever. They'll soon run out of people that will work with them. That's their problem. But the issue is then you've got somebody who is pretending to be, is leasing their gaff out to a Spanish woman and getting 16 million. Have you looked at it? Has he got a tax clearance certificate? Do you know what I mean? Have you done the
other point
basics?
as well. That's the other point as well. I know I was in one of the previous reports in relation to the court findings where the organization that had the contract had not done its tax returns in something like 5 to 6 years, something like that. It's not ridiculous.
So I need a tax clearance certificate to get paid $1,000 or something for work I actually did as myself.
Yeah.
I'm not rocking up going, I'm Juan Walsh. I'm coming up as myself. You can see it. I'll show you my ID, my passport. I'll tell you exactly who I am. I'm a sole trader, whatever it is. Here's my tax clearance certificate. And I'm having problems getting paid. But the guy who's coming up and you just don't know, there's no due diligence. This is bad. This is real bad. So this is the other article you sent me. Department responds to woman in Spain's involvement to Dundrum asylum seeker contract. The other thing about this, Al, is this. I know the Examiner have done had an article on this, reported on this. I haven't seen much anywhere else. I mean, this is a huge story.
I know.
Why is it? Who's keeping it quiet and why?
Just validates the disproportionate coverage that we received for plenary summons that this guy made, which nobody's reported that we defended it, right? So they leave that, they'll redact that from any of their publications. I don't know, Keith, but it just further enhances my concern around or the neutrality or the objectivity of our media. Like why? How is it they do not see this as a story, and how has he got the ability to keep it out of mainstream media? It's extraordinary.
Okay, and doubling down on this, because you this is exactly what you're talking about. So we have the headline: Department respond, and fair play to Tipperary Live. Department respond to woman in Spain. That's her name. It's like it's Ginny Cooper novel, The Woman in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. She was a woman. She lived in Spain. Department respond to woman in Spain's involvement in Dundrum asylum seeker contract. The department confirms all business was conducted legitimately. Okay, right. Let's take their word for it. All business was conducted legitimately. So they're looking at this and they're happy with it. Like this does not.
So.
If they're saying if it was done legitimately, then there's a big issue. Then the issue isn't with the property owner or the lady in Spain. Then the issue is with the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, who have responded to claims saying that the Spanish woman named as director, operated from Palma de Mallorca, has been granted a contract worth roughly 60 to 20 million to operate an iPass centre from Dundrum House Hotel, and it was all done legitimately. This is now us looking at that department and going, right, well, something's wrong. Something's wrong. But prove it that it was done legitimately, or let's take them at face value. Let's take their word for it. And now we're going, right, well, if that's how you do, if it's all done legitimately, then it's really, you've got a bad system there. There's something broken in how you go about your business. Which doesn't, either way, it doesn't look good.
But how would you even stand over that statement as a public representative to say the property is in dispute, the owner, so the person that signed the lease, is in the middle of a court case with the top insolvency practitioner in the country, Karen Wallace, who the government trusted to take care of a very onerous cleanup operation after the recession, right? After Celtic Tiger burst. He's got him in court saying this guy is, a dodgy business guy, right? And then he signs a lease with a company that has no history So what due diligence did they do? It's a 3 month old. I mean, what are they talking about? Like, to get any kind of government contract, you have to show at least 1 or 2 years of annual accounts. You have to show that you've paid your taxes. You have to show that you're a legitimate business that can operate and show credibility. You must have some kind of business insurance. I'm assuming. I mean, to even get business insurance as a new company that's only formed 3 months ago, you wouldn't even get it.
So the questions then are, as we'll go back over some of the main points, is Ireland too open for these kinds of opaque operators?
So why don't we do it? Why don't we do a test? Why don't we run a process? It might take us a while to investigate it. We'll get one of our investigators on it, and we start looking at, okay, what is the profile of the other companies that have been awarded these contracts?
Yes,
we start requesting the information, and let's have a look at it. Let's see if the trend is forming. 2 months, 3 months, 6 month old company, not in Ireland, is not the owner of the property, right? Like, I don't want to belabor this point, right, in terms of, the necessity of diligence, but I'm just going to use an anecdotal in comparison. Airbnb implemented restrictions within their platform because people were going on to Airbnb, right, securing a property and then subletting it for a higher rate during peak seasons.
No.
This is true, right? So, like, is this what we're talking about here? Can I go on to Airbnb and rent 10 properties and I'll set up a holdco in Spain, and I'll go to the department and say, I have 10 properties. I can house 20 people in each of them, which equates to 200, similar to this, and I'll get that contract. Is that what they're telling me?
Well, I think it might be worth trying to do that and seeing how far we get.
And if I get to 20 million, I'll put it back into the country and help some of the people that actually need to be helped, which is our own citizens that are struggling every day that can't even buy houses. Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, or maybe you might just, like, if some asylum seekers do come in, you might actually just run the thing properly and like get them to a place where either they get their asylum that they're entitled to, or we get them back home. Or, do you know what I mean? Like that we just need to focus on doing things properly in this country and not. It's just absolute. It's amateur hour, I'm afraid. It's the ease of setting up companies and the lack of stringent oversight are facilitating all of this, and the absence of prior experience in managing accommodation centres, lack of transparency in companies' ownership should have been potential red flags here. What is this doing to Ireland as a place of business, to its reputation? It's undermining confidence in Ireland's regulatory environment and its attractiveness to legitimate investors. This is a big problem. So while we're selling the family silver, the crown jewel, whatever you want to call them, to any yank in a top hat who tap dances in front of us, we are selling our souls. We're selling our whatever goodwill we had built up as a good place to do business is fast. If it hasn't already, it's fast disappearing.
Yeah. I think we haven't heard the last of this. This is
oh God, no.
We're going to have to get some deeper detail in this, and I hadn't realised until just now when we were speaking to it that Tipperary Live had covered that they even got a response to say that they're comfortable standing over it. I mean, that just further inflames the whole situation, that they're actually defending it.
Yeah, I don't think this is the last that we'll hear from Mr. Leo or Javier.
It might be a scene out of Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. Maybe some woman from Spain just decided to help because she read all the headlines.
Maybe she felt bad for him.
Felt bad for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll help this guy out for 20 million.
Yeah, poor Jeff. Oh no, that's Italian. Doesn't matter.
Muchas gracias.
Hey, I look a job. I give you, I help you. You'll make a. You're poor Jeff. No,
We should find the address of the party and just see, is it like a corner store in Palma de Mallorca?
we should go on holidays.
They definitely have a banner over the door, Feliz Navidad. You know, they're definitely thinking it's Christmas. It's not Easter, it's Christmas. Woohoo! Oh man.
Oh my
bonkers,
God.
Bonkers, Ireland.
Perfect.
Bonkers,
Listen,
bonkers.
we will talk about this again. So much more. I mean, God. I mean,
Maybe we'll do
the
a checkpoint on it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll check in maybe tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's a day of reflection on Christ on the cross, so maybe not. I could nominate somebody instead of Dick of the Week put someone up for crucifixion. His name does start with J, but it's not JC. It's JL. The fact that you said last week that Netflix are interested, like, okay. This is how diabolical this is. Netflix are interested in making a documentary because they know how insanely bonkers this whole thing is and how brilliant it would be for a Netflix series. They know this before the Irish government know how bad this is. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go and calm down.
We'll start setting up the studio, Keith, for an iPass Center, and let's see how far we get.
Yeah, we could teach them podcasting as well.
Yeah,
might actually get some.
Okay, my man.
Good luck. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the sun, and yeah, good talking to you.
All right, buddy. Talk soon.
Look, thank you for viewing and watching. Enjoy your Easter weekend and whatever you're up to. Don't eat too many eggs, and beware Spanish ladies on the road to Dublin. And also, if you hear of anything, or if you watch this and you have a story, you have an angle on a story, and you want to get in touch, you can DM us here. You can get in touch with us on any of our social media platforms. We are on MOTH, and we are on we're on every Blue Sky, Instagram, all of the good places. So get in touch and send us a message, and we will look into stuff on your behalf. That's what we're here for. Take care. Good luck. Enjoy your day.